A roll, a throw, and a touchdown. Kendall Blanton. 3rd and 20. Stafford going for it all. He's got a wide open man. It's Cooper Kupp who gets free. And Kupp rolls all the way to the end zone. Again, fires downfield to be picked off at the 31-yard line. Nick Scott. Look out from behind. Ball is out. Strip sack there by Von Miller. Deep downfield. He's got Kupp again. He's at the 10. Stafford says, let's get down there. We gotta clock it. We got game. Boots it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of East Coast Rams. I am your host, Ashton Spencer, here with my awesome co-host, Zac Mayer, and we have a special guest, Jake Ellenbogen of Downtown Rams and Jake Ellenbogen, the YouTube channel. I'm a big fan, Jake. You've been doing a lot of great stuff on YouTube, a lot of great Rams stuff in general. So anyone listening, if you want some great Rams content, definitely go follow him on Twitter. We'll kind of link all that stuff and post it below in our description and everything. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm great, Ashton. Thank you guys so much for having me. I know this is the second time I think I've been on a show of yours. We did a show together. We actually did two, I think, if you include the roundtable for MCU. And I think this is the first time, if I recall correctly, that I'm on with Zac. So, nice to meet you, Zac, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great having you on the pod. I've been following your work. You were kind of one of the main, Rams commentaries that I've started following on Twitter, and it really got me into the Ram fan base. As far as Twitter and YouTube and things like that going. So it's great to have you on, and great to have you in this dialogue.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. It's been an adjustment for me because I remember when I first started, and I really like in 2016, it was really just the Downtown Rams, Twitter that I used, and people were always asking me like, "Hey, I'm used to just you running the Downtown Rams Twitter. Why don't you just kind of put yourself out there?" And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point, because I realized I was building a brand. Like, people are just going to refer to me as Downtown Rams. It got to the point, it finally clicked for me when I went on a show and someone just called me Rams Jake or Downtown Rams or something like that. And I was just like, you know what? I need to build my own brand on top of that brand. So I started putting myself out there probably around, 2017, 2018, and really never stopped. So I'm glad you guys have noticed me. Obviously, you have. We've talked about it and everything, but that's why it took so long for me to get out there, because I was using the Downtown Rams Twitter.
And now you're broadening yourself out to covering the MCU content and all sorts of
Yes.
other fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start covering game highlights. We'll then go into the offense and defense, and we will kind of preview next week NFC title. Wow, it's been a crazy year, but even more than that, this was a crazy game. Going into the first quarter, basically the Rams kind of throwing out the Buccaneers. We end up getting a field goal, and then our first touchdown comes off of Kendall Blanton. Like, great plays by him, just doing tremendous stuff there. We get a touchdown from Cooper Kupp, a complete bomb by Stafford. End up getting a field goal right before 2-minute warning. We even get that interception from Nick Scott after that. Get stopped at the goal line by a Cam Akers fumble. Third quarter, we get a touchdown after a few 3-and-outs by the Bucs. And then the Bucs start just coming back. They start with a field goal, then they get a touchdown by Leonard Fournette. They get a other big bomb over Jalen Ramsey by Mike Evans. And then you had that Leonard Fournette 9-yard run kind of on 4th and 1. And then we end up getting that bomb by Stafford again to guess who? Kupp, to get the field goal and go up. The final game stats end up being time of possession. Rams 34 minutes to the Bucks 25 minutes. A really big disparity there. Turnovers, Rams 4, Bucks 2. Total yards, Rams 428, the Bucks 359, and first downs, Rams 24, Bucks 20. What are your guys' general impressions? This was a hell of a roller coaster ride, at least for me. You wouldn't want to see the heart rate monitor for me while watching this thing.
Yeah, so for me, this game just meant so much because I mean, the Brady fans just I can only take so much of them. And and just to be able to win the way they did, on top of it, you guys know you've been following me. Anybody that's listening has been following me, with the whole Stafford defense. And, I just felt like he was unfairly treated. This whole time, I felt like he really hasn't been treated fairly. If he was in a bigger market, he probably wouldn't have been talked about the way he has and things like that. So, I just loved it. The ending could not have been more perfect. And if I knew ahead of time that's how it was going to be, if I could have had a blowout or if I could have had that knowing that they were going to win, I would have taken the collapse. I would have taken the win on the same play because that was the most exciting play I've seen the Rams have since the Greatest Show on Turf days. That was more exciting than even going to the Super Bowl. The kick was great. Don't get me wrong. The interception, John Johnson, that was great. There was something extra knocking Brady out of the playoffs, and especially something extra with Matthew Stafford, who I believe has been, unfairly treated the whole year, throwing a bomb to who I believe should win MVP in Cooper Cup. It just kind of proved both of my points at once and also knocked out Brady. So I just loved it.
Yeah, it was definitely a win-win situation. I always thought, when I did my predictions last week, I thought this game was going to be 31-27 Rams win. I was 1 point off. I really thought this was going to be a close game. I wasn't expecting, the Rams to kind of be, you know, blowing it out of the water, in the first half. But I knew Brady was always going to fight back, going into that second half. But man, I think that's what the team needed. They didn't need a blowout win against Tom Brady because I feel like that could have left maybe a slight bit of cockiness going into the 49ers game. And just having that, last 42 seconds run, with Stafford and Cup, it just made that marriage and the Stafford Rams marriage, complete and finally, this is the team we knew we had from the beginning.
Yeah, it's a little amazing how much like some casual NFL viewers will not realize the small little great things that Stafford has done, especially in the last 2 weeks, to really keep us afloat and keep us winning these last two matches. Like he has done a few great no look passes. I believe the Kendall Bland touchdown was a no look pass.
Yeah.
He just has great eyes to be able to look off defenders. He's has started taking more sacks instead of throwing really boneheaded plays. He has grown throughout the season, and I feel like a part of that was him needing to earn like his own trust of the team. He has always been on a team where the only way they were going to really realistically win big matches was if he fought back. And he did that a few times. Other times he didn't, and he couldn't really trust the team to carry him. And I feel like he's finally starting to trust his team. And when the team needs him to step up, he stepped up. He made the throws. And the last 2 weeks, you cannot ask for a better clutch quarterback. Because I'm sorry, if Jared Goff was back there, we don't win against the Bucks. We don't.
No.
Even though it's not the QB's fault, but there's no way he's making that bomb to Cooper Cup. I think he made one or two of those throws at all in 2018, something of that nature in that type of big environment. It was just amazing to watch. Uh, I just I can't believe that roller coaster ride. Did you guys think he fumbled the ball when he got sacked?
No, no, I think that was an overblown thing. Um, really, he gave himself up. It looked like it was this weird thing where he was going to do a quarterback keeper, and when he realized he wasn't going to get a ton of yards, he kind of went down on his own. And he didn't fumble because, he was already down and the ball came out after it hit the ground. So I don't know why everyone's like overblowing that, but no, I wasn't worried about that. Felt like that was just stretched to be something that was more, ooh, well, it almost happened and Brady almost won, like that's kind of how I saw it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's just funny how going into this game, it you heard all about Tom Brady, and let's be honest, Tom Brady played a very bad game, at least until the fourth quarter, which he was good, but then again, how many times did he get the ball in the half field, like halfway through the field? He didn't have to make full complete drives against our defense, and that's where I disagree with anyone who tries to say like, "Oh, your defense wasn't good. You gave up 27." I'm like, "Yeah, they only gave up 27 when they had 4 fumbles." Like it's actually quite amazing, like very remarkable how well Morris's defense held up against a Buck offense that wasn't only surging but also was getting help from various players on our offense. And just credit to them. I think the only bad play was Ramsey getting beat, and that doesn't happen often, if ever.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I mean, really, when it comes down to it with Jalen Ramsey, is that he actually had to kind of pick up the slack because Darius Williams really struggled in this game. I think you probably saw it on Twitter. I pointed out that Darius Williams needs to do a better job on that play, the fourth down run by Leonard Fournette. He needs to be able to set that edge, and he is the guy there. And when I don't know really what he was doing. He allowed Fournette to break that edge and, turn the corner and score a touchdown. It really put Nick Scott in a bad position. He was getting, worked by Scotty Miller. And because of that, you had to have Jalen Ramsey kind of come over and help him out. So, it really changed the way the Rams could defend. And the hope is that, Darius Williams really bounces back. I'm not really worried about Ramsey. Just a bad play where, unfortunate. Great throw by Brady. Gotta give him his credit there. He's got Evans in the hip pocket. It's actually a really nice job by Ramsey to be there attached to his hip like glue. Because that's where you want to be if you're trying, to the trail technique, trying to, bait the throw and then be in the position where the recovery speed can take over and your pure athleticism can, come into play and you can make that interception. Well, unfortunately, he stumbled or whatever. It was really a bizarre looking play. And so he was unfortunately not able to do that. And that is why he gave up that big play. So that was that. But I was way more concerned with Darius Williams because he was just not very good on Sunday when he needed to be.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. As for Ramsey, I mean, I'll take one, maybe two of those a year. If he blows one or two big plays a year, that's nothing compared to the rest of the league, where those just
Hmm.
they seem to happen all the time to various star cornerbacks. So um,
Stephon Diggs. Mhm.
yeah, so
Oh, Trayvon Diggs. Yeah.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs. Sorry.
yeah, it's just one of those things where I could accept that. It happens once in a while. It's not going to happen every time. That's why he's the best.
Yeah, just from the play of both sides of the ball, what was the biggest issue in the second half, in your opinion, Zach? I know it's easy to say the fumbles, but besides, I would say the first Cam Maker one was kind of like purely luck, like half a second later, that's not really a fumble. But besides that one, what was really causing our offense issues in the second half?
I'm not really sure. We came back. We did have. We come back from the second half, and we punt the ball. After 5 plays, but then we go back and immediately score a touchdown when we do a 3 and out. Um, you know, I can't really pinpoint it other than those fumbles. It was the bizarre. Again, it was bizarre. It's Cooper Cup. Losing the ball, which he never does. That's weird. And then we had the weird Allen, high snap over Stafford's head. Does anyone know what happened with that? Did they ever clarify what the miscues were for that?
I just think Allen high snapped it.
Well,
I think
he
we've
wa
seen one close play like that before
Yeah,
from
it
him.
wasn't a bad snap actually. He snapped it where it's supposed to be. Just Stafford was not ready for it, so he did not give a signal. And I think Brian Allen, in an environment that was probably pretty loud,
Mhm.
there was some sort of miscommunication where he did snap it. But I mean, it wasn't a great snap, but it wasn't necessarily over his head. As you can see, it kind of goes over his shoulder. Um, and obviously, if he has his hands up, then that's going to go right into his hands. So, I mean, some quarterbacks, they like the ball also snapped to like the right side of their shoulder, the left side of their shoulder, or like right in the middle of their chest. Like, so I mean, that might be his personal preference, and that's not something that we can see quickly on TV until we, put it in slow motion. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that, with Stafford, I just think it was miscommunication. I don't think it was Brian Allen. Um, snapping it over his head or anything like that. I don't think Stafford. I didn't see Stafford say anything, so it could have been just the crowd noise. Hopefully, it doesn't happen this weekend.
Mhm. Yeah, I looked back to see how many fumbles we had throughout the year, and I believe it was around 4 fumbles throughout the entire year, and we had that same amount in this one game. And it's ridiculous because my wife asked me, she's like, "Why are you getting angry, upset? They're 27 or like 24 points up." And I was like, "You don't understand. It's Tom Brady on the other side. Like he has done this before where he's crushed other teams' hearts. And like you're constantly thinking in back of your head, like, we don't want to be the next Atlanta Falcons. And credit to this team because a lot of other teams, when they start coming back and you start making those kind of mistakes, you don't get that throw at the end. You don't get that great execution. You don't get the line blocking just for enough time for Cooper Cup to get the first 20-yard catch. Um, a lot of things had to be very resilient for them to end up closing out this game, and credit to them for closing out this game and knocking out the reigning Super Bowl champs. All right, guys, let's go ahead and kind of move directly into the offensive and defensive highlights. Stafford ended this game with 28 of 38 for 366 yards, average of 9.6, 2 touchdowns. He got sacked twice for 11 yards, 121 rating, QBR is 67. Uh, do either of you guys want to touch on more like Stafford's performance?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, what was really incredible about Stafford's performance is that he went up against a defense that for the first time all year was fully healthy. So you can use the excuse that, oh, that well, they don't have, they're not gelled, they haven't been together for a while. I would use the opposite. I think that they would be a lot better than what we've seen. They've really been just kind of, putting the pieces together, just trying to find anything that works. And nothing's really worked all year for them. They've given up a lot of yards, but Stafford not only went up against them at full strength on defense, but he had to throw the ball without any semblance of a running game. I mean, you're talking about 24 carries for Cam Akers to go to 48 yards. That's 2 yards per carry average. They really just did a nice job. They sold out to stop the run. And, with no run game to speak of, Matthew Stafford, his job was harder and he still was able to make the throws necessary, took advantage of the blitz, the zone blitzing and things like that. So, I definitely think Stafford deserves a ton of credit. This was a otherworldly performance on the road, hostile environment against one of the greatest to ever do it. And I just can't stress enough how impressive it was and how wrong some people truly were about this quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. Stafford had a perfect game, and within the last 2 weeks, with no interceptions, coming out pretty clean. He's becoming the quarterback that he's had some struggles with the interceptions, but he's realizing now that he doesn't have to be, the star of the show. He has so many stars on his team that he can now take the sacks. He can throw the ball out of bounds. He doesn't have to make the big plays. He can rely on the defense if need be. So, really, he was able to manage this team so well that I feel like we kind of lost a little bit back in November. So I think he did a great performance. I think McVay really schemed a good game. Minus the fumbles, which obviously the coach can't control that. Again, I think it's been posted, everywhere that he kind of had this perfect game, and if you take out those fumbles, this game would have been way more lopsided than ever. And so I think McVay did a really good job scheming this team, and hopefully he can do that again. When we talk about it down in a few minutes against the 49ers. So I think it was a well-rounded play by Stafford, and then a well-schemed game by McVay.
Yeah, to your credit, the thing about Stafford taking sacks, not making like super, super crazy big risks is guess what? We got a touchdown on 3rd and 20. Like we are capable of having explosive passing plays against most teams on 3rd and long. Now, does that mean you want to always be in that situation? No. But if we have to be, we can still perform in those types of really, really long yardage situations. I do hope, from McVay's point of view, I do feel like did a relatively great job of balance wise making plays and a lot of the throwing plays. I kind of wish he got more creative in the run game and not just a lot of up the gut runs, because it wasn't working. A lot of the zone runs weren't working at all, and I wish we should. I just wish we would have saw more screens, a little bit more jet sweeps. I think ever since we lost Robert Woods, he's been just not trusting of other players to do it. We had one jet sweep in this game, and it went for, I think, 18 yards, if I'm not mistaken. That was Van Jefferson, I think.
Yeah, Van Jefferson.
Yeah, and I just wish we saw more of that when our run game itself isn't providing big yardage. That way they have to respect it even more. Now, you can still do the play action if you're sticking to the run and making them respect it in that sense. So play action doesn't need successful running. It just needs you to like say, "Hey, I will be doing it every so often." That way they respect it. But in general, I want to see more creative plays that actually get yardage and allow you to set up play action. I feel like you could have got more creative against a team it's going to be hard to run on. You don't necessarily need to do stuff like that against defenses that aren't good against the run, like the Cardinals. You don't need to get super creative with the runs. But against a team like the Buccaneers and like 49ers, I think that would help a lot, especially put horizontal stress on the defense. That's something the 49ers do a great job of. Especially if like down the gut running isn't working for them, they'll do a bunch of different weird, crazy things, especially with Debo Samuel. And I feel like we have the players to mimic a lot of that stuff. And I just feel like it could help out a lot more.
Hey Jake, so what's your insight on why we've had Sony Michelle for this whole season, and he's been super strong in December. I know Cam Akers is healthy, he's back, and we want him to have majority of the carries, but 24 carries versus Sony Michelle's one. Do you have any insight on maybe why McVay went so heavy-handed on Cam Akers for this particular game, especially in the second half?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you can see he's just one away, right? He's just one carry away from breaking one. And when you put in Cam Akers, you're banking on that big run because I'll tell you right now, Daryl Henderson probably is the more, efficient back if you look at the stats than all three of them. But when you look at what Cam Akers brings to the table, he has the most 20 plus yard runs of any running back that has been on the Rams in 2 years. So, that's the thing, is that they're hoping that he springs one. And with Michelle, we saw the 30 plus yard run against Arizona. That saved his day. For the most part, he was very unappealing. And, I think he's just fallen kind of out of favor in the sense now that you have Cam Akers back and potentially with Daryl Henderson right around the corner. I mean, guys, right now, the way we're, looking at it, I mean, it's something where, you're looking at Akers. This is somebody that obviously succeeds in the longer runs. Michelle doesn't have that burst, and keep in mind, Michelle has the same exact injury as Todd Gurley, the same knee ailment he's dealing with. that arthritic knee. I think a lot of people don't realize that or forget about it. But, Michel's a good running back, but he's more of a short area guy. 55% of his runs are 3 or fewer yards gained. Whereas you look at Henderson is 52%, 4 or greater. Cam Akers, 57%, 3 or fewer. But Cam Akers leads both running backs in 20 plus yard runs. And, I just think he's the more explosive back. He's by far the best receiving back on the roster. Henderson's the best pass protector, and I think the most powerful back. Even the fact that they have the same size, him and Akers, would be Sony Michel. That's just the way he runs. I think Akers is more of the complete long-term option. So they are, obviously interested in that. Michel also is on a contract year. So, there's a chance he doesn't get brought back. And keep this in mind, they game planned before this season. The idea of Cam Akers was going to be in tandem with Darrell Henderson. This is somebody that they traded up to get. Since Akers has come back, Henderson's been hurt, and so that kind of doesn't work well with their plan. So obviously Henderson could be back for this game. I just think really what it comes down to is if Sony Michel was running the way he did against Minnesota and they took him out for Cam Akers and they played him, had him 24 carries, it would be a different ball game. But I don't think Sony Michel was going to do much better because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they just flat out sold out to stop the run. Wasn't really much Akers could do. Sometimes teams put 8-9 guys in the box. Akers ran against a box that was pretty much filled more than any other running back last year for the Rams. So, this is somebody that already knows that. But, Tampa has this guy in the middle by the name of Vita Vea, who is a wall. And so I think they just did an incredible job of selling out to stop the run. However, it put them in harm's way because when you have 8, 9, even 10 guys in the box, you're going to have a man open. And so, because of that, obviously you're banking on Stafford you're banking on Stafford not making quick decisions. And sorry, Stafford makes quick decisions, and you're going to pay for that. So, it's always the pick your poison approach. We saw it against Arizona, first half, back, in the Arizona game on Monday Night Football, not the playoff game. The Rams run the ball like crazy with Sony Michel. They can't stop them, 12 personnel, 13 personnel groupings. And then, basically Vance Joseph comes out in the second half and is like, we're not going to allow Sony Michel to beat us. So it's like, all right, well, Cooper Kupp only had 40 yards on one catch, really to, go into the second half. And, after that, all bets were off. He was able to kind of open up a little bit, get going. And that's the thing is teams are going to have to decide, do we want to get beaten over the head constantly with the run and just not allow Cooper Kupp and Odell and all of them to beat us? Or do we want to stop and sell out against the run and allow them and just kind of play the odds and just hope that Stafford has an off day with his accuracy and that there's drops and trust the secondary, because that's really the only choices you have against this Rams offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, moving on to receiving, Jake. Besides Cooper Kupp, which we all can agree, we will never see a Rams wide receiver season like this probably ever again. It's just so dominant. He passed overall yardage for a player, including the postseason. It just beyond belief. 9 receptions, 183 yards, a touchdown. But looking at everyone below him, who do you think really contributed the most to the success in this game? OBJ had 69 yards. Higbee had 51. Is it between one of them, or is it someone lower on the totem pole?
Yeah, so to me, I, I like Higby. Having that tough tight end. He's always been that clutch character or clutch player. Even before OBJ came out, always being able to kind of come up in the middle. Even if he only gets 8 yards, usually he can stretch and get those extra 1 or 2 yards to get that first down. He just always seems to be that before it used to be third and Coop. I really think that, Higbee has kind of taken that role to be kind of that short center, to be able to, help Stafford out, and get those extra couple yards to get that first down.
Yeah, I think with the emergence of Tyler Higbee, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, and I'm sure you have, since he came back from COVID. Like, can we all agree that Tyler Higbee just looks different?
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
he just seems. I just think that's the element that they were really missing, and um, now Higbee looks 100%. He looks like he's on another level. On the same page with Stafford. He caught a touchdown the last time, against the Niners, and we saw his career, not his career, but his season high in receptions was against the Ravens. I mean, they like him in close games. And so I think you can definitely count on Tyler Higbee this weekend. I think, this is somebody that they're going to lean on. And honestly, I'll tell you this right now. If Darrell Henderson's healthy, they're going to use him as well on those wheel routes. And I think that really, I've been saying this, you guys, I mean, Ashton, how many times have I said this on a live stream? I want to see, the dual backfield. I want to see split back. I mean, I really, really need to see it. I need to see Henderson. I need to see Akers on the field at the same time, like they, have been teasing us for, however long.
I would even love some creative plays with both of them, like where you have Henderson and Akers come out in the backfield behind or next to Stafford, and then you see just Akers go to wide receiver and switch with Kupp and have like a crazy play where like Kupp just shoots out of the backfield. You have Akers running a wide receiver route. Like you can be so playful with these awesome athletes who are just so capable of a lot, and Cooper Cup being able to do anything from any position, it's just amazing. Like you said, just both having both back will be a very underrated thing going into this game with San Fran.
And
No,
then
I 100% agree with that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say I 100% agree with that. I think it's really important to have these guys back, and I think what isn't being talked about enough in regards to the San Francisco game is this. Let's call it like it is. The Rams, they have a lot going for them right now. And San Francisco constantly, what has been talked about is the fact that they're just going to run it down the Rams' throat, and they may have done that the first time. The second time, the Rams made adjustments and they look considerably worse. And I think this third time, they're going to look really bad because I think Sebastian Joseph Day is going to be ready. And he's one of the best, if not the best, interior defender when it comes to stopping the run. So this is a gap eater. This is somebody that can come in and, I think they're going to be ready, man. I really do. I think they're going to be ready to stop that running attack, whether it is Eli Mitchell or Deebo Samuel or Jeff Wilson or any of them. I mean, I really think having Sebastian Joseph Day, and not only just him, but Ernest Jones in the middle, I think will definitely do wonders.
Do you think they've realized to stop over rushing the quarterback? It seemed like there was always two or three of them behind the quarterback, and Debo just had the ball, on the way opposite side of them. It kind of seemed like in the last two games they've kind of, held back a little bit and not like kind of directly flown towards that quarterback. At least all of them all at once.
Yeah, well, when we talk about selling out to stop the run, that's what you're talking about.
Mhm.
You're basically playing. It's like playing contain instead of trying to penetrate. And I think, when you look at it, hey, what it comes down to, very, very simple, is that when you're able to penetrate and you're able to get into the backfield and make plays and things along that nature, it's great. But there's always, there's a pro and a con to everything you do. And if you're going to constantly have Aaron Donald try to, go through the middle and, try to make some contact and, push some guys over, what you might find is if a guy slips Aaron Donald, you've now just kind of carved out a path for the ball carrier. And so, I do think the greatest example I can give is, do you remember when the Rams went up against Ezekiel Elliott and the Dallas Cowboys 2018 divisional round? how, everyone was talking about how Ezekiel Elliott is going to run all over this defense. And what they did in that game is quite simple. They sold out to stop the run. They did not care who Ezekiel Elliott was. They did not care necessarily about getting a ton of pressure on Prescott. They stayed, they contained their gap assignments, and they just stayed and sold out to stop the run. They didn't try to over pursue. They didn't try to penetrate through the offensive line the way that you would. They really sold out to stop Ezekiel Elliott, and it ended up working because on the flip side, the Rams ran over 200 yards. I'm not saying they'll do that this time, but I think that's kind of the approach that they'll have.
Well, me and Zach were listening to a few other Rams podcasts, and they threw out the topic of Noteboom or Whitworth at right tackle. Clearly, Noteboom had a great game. I believe he only allowed one pressure. Whitworth himself, he has been getting a little bit older. I think he's kind of sensing that he wants to be back for another year. Jake, which one are you exactly leaning towards? Because Whitworth does come with a higher cost, and we could possibly lose Noteboom in free agency if we don't try to nail him down. And he's been a good backup for us for a while now.
Yeah, I think Noteboom needs to be brought back. I mean, I think really what it is as much as we love Whitworth, we need to, kind of realize Noteboom is the future, and I think there's a chance Whitworth does retire. I think there's a chance he also stays, but I'm feeling pretty confident he's going to end up, Whitworth is going to end up retiring. And, regardless if that happens, I really feel like Noteboom is the guy, and they might have to move Witt to guard. But no, Noteboom has been unbelievable when asked. I mean, they needed him in a big way, and he came through against a veteran in Jason Pierre-Paul that has been so explosive and so dynamic and so disruptive throughout his career. It's all you could ask for, really. And it really goes to show the Rams made the right move when they selected him in the third round. In that 2018 draft class, because it may not have been the sexiest pick, but man, was he important to even get to this point in the playoffs. If he, crapped the bed, for lack of a better term, I mean, we might not even be talking right now about this team going to the next round and playing this Sunday.
And all credit to the Rams front office, because I know a lot of the fan base was giving them a lot of crap for basically not drafting a lineman. It was a constant talk of the offseason was, oh, will they draft a lineman? When will they draft a lineman? And when they didn't, almost not the entire fan base, but a lot of the fan base freaked out. And they're like, we don't have a great line. And guess what? The front office stuck by them. And they have turned out to be right. And a lot of the fan base turned out to be wrong. I know people still wanted Creed Humphrey. I wanted Creed Humphrey. And Creed Humphrey is a great player, but you don't know that beforehand. And ultimately, they know what they had in the players they already had. And it has turned out to be a success. I mean, their line has been top 5 all season. They've only had really one bad game in the Tennessee game. Besides that, you can't ask for a far better line, and they all across the line have been very consistent. Uh, you could say we haven't had like a top 3 lineman or top 4 lineman, but overall, it's just I think people need to apologize to the front office, and they know what they're doing, and they got a great hire in the offensive line coach. And I don't know, I'm just impressed by the fact that they stuck by him. Zach, do you think that was the right move to stick by linemen, or do you still think we should have got Creed Humphrey?
I like our O line. I think it's great. I always do. I am always concerned about not looking to the future. I mean, I knew Whitworth is going to be retiring. Whether it's this year, possibly next. From the beginning of the year. But just having some depth, that I felt like we were lacking a little bit of depth. Yes, we have no boom, and he's fantastic, and he's definitely a good replacement for Whitworth. But I was still concerned because you never know these week to week games. You're never sure if you're gonna lose, one or two offensive linemen. So I still think I rather them have picked up an offensive lineman than a wide receiver, but that story's already been told.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to defense. Not much to say about this defense. They had a great game. 3 sacks, 2 by Aaron Donald, 1 by Floyd, a Nick Scott interception, Von Miller getting a strip sack in his own recovery. We did talk earlier about Ramsey getting beat, but uh, there are a lot of moments in this game where the defense really rose up, and only a few I can think of where they failed. You had Troy Reader missing a tackle on Fournette that could have ended the game. But it's hard to be very critical of them, at least from my point of view, because they got put in very difficult situations where you're asking them to completely bail out a few offensive players having butterfingers. And overall, just great job. Jake, what was the key to this Rams defense eventually just holding the Bucks to 27, even with 4 turnovers? Which may I remind people, Tom Brady is 49-0 when his defense gets 3 or more turnovers.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, 2 weeks ago the Rams were undefeated under Sean McVay when they lead at halftime. So you're seeing a lot of these crazy milestones and these crazy streaks come to an end. I mean, we can talk all day about those. I mean, Tampa was what? They only lost one game when wearing white. That's why apparently they wore white. Well, they lost then. So, there's a lot here, but I think what it comes down to is it's what I've been preaching all season. Give Raheem Morris some time, give him a chance to acclimate, guys into this defense, Justin Hollins, a guy by the name of Von Miller they traded for. He's just done a stellar job. Honestly, a better job than Brandon Staley. To be honest, Brandon Staley didn't deal with the injuries he did necessarily. And, he had to deal with a whole other turnover thing with the defensive back room. You're talking about John Johnson leaving and Troy Hill. So, he had to overcome that. Michael Brockers, their leader, leaving. So, I just think that he did an absolutely incredible job putting guys in position to succeed. It took some time. Yes. I mean, obviously he got a lot of flack for it, but, in the end, I mean, they're playing in an NFC championship game, and he also, and this is not necessarily to trash Brandon Staley, but a lot of Rams fans were upset when they didn't look that great without Aaron Donald. I mean, obviously he played, but they didn't look that great with an injured Aaron Donald. And, people felt like he kind of mailed it in, that he knew he had a job and he mailed it in. I never really felt that way, but I will say that Raheem Morris did just interview for a defensive coordinator job, and he didn't let that get to him. I know a lot of people were worried about that, the curse of, the interview for a defensive coordinator, head coaching job, defensive coordinator interviewing for head coaching job. I know a lot of people were worried about that, but no, credit to him. I thought, Raheem really did a beautiful job. And, that play that they ran at the goal line to stop Fournette and it didn't work. It was a good play. Like I said, just Darius Williams needs to do a better job there of, setting the edge and having the edge and holding the edge. But everyone did their job on that play. And, I think we put way too much on the backs of these coaches. They do as much as they can, but at the end of the day, these are grown men in the NFL. You have to tackle. And I think the biggest issue with the Rams the last time they played against the Niners is that they could not tackle Raheem. Sure, you could argue playing that, that far off all his man and everything down, the end of that game, put them in position. But, I think just as much if they make a few of those tackles, then we're not talking about playing the Niners. There's a chance I didn't even know where we would be right now because who knows if Sean Payton would have even retired by now. I mean, so much would have changed, if that were the case.
Yeah, that's definitely a weird multiversal Earth we can go to where the Rams get the second seed and end up playing the Saints, and the 49ers never get in, and you don't have the Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers knocked off by 49ers. just very bizarre. It's been a bizarre playoffs, it really has. And people don't realize it's never happened in NFL history where all lower seeds won in the divisional round. And it got super close. You're like one amazing Allen play away, or if the Bills win the coin toss and get the ball in overtime, like if the Bills win that game, that's first time in NFL history that's ever happened. So it's pretty nuts weekend. Let's go ahead and move into special teams. Matt Gay did miss a 47-yarder. Um, is there anything to worry about with Matt Gay? I personally don't think there is. He has been clutch. He had a clutch kick to end the game. That weirdly, that stadium, he has a really bizarre low like field goal hitting percentage. I don't know. They said that the winds were the reason it was uh, just not far enough. Whether it was the wins or not, it could be something mental going back to the stadium of the team that drafted him and cut him. Like that is more pressure, I think, on him than normally there is.
I don't really think there was. I think it was just. I think it's more probably the wind than anything. I mean, it was a short. It wasn't like it was far right, far left. I'd be more concerned if it was that because it was short. I'm really gonna just toss it up as a just a bad mistake. Not enough oomph when there was so much wind. I don't know. There could be a number of things, but I know that there was talk that he was injured. No, there's no signs that he was injured pre-game to affect his kicking skills. And plus, he scored us the winning score when that had to have the most pressure on him. So I'm not too concerned about his kicking ability.
No, I'm not either because the downforce winds, obviously he said that impacted the flight of the ball. It's tricky there in Tampa, but one thing we know is that he's going to get the same type of environment day in and day out at SoFi. They're not you're not by the bay like that. So, there's not going to be any downforce winds. I don't think it's anything to worry about, and as long as they take care of business, I mean, there won't be anything to worry about as well. The 2 weeks from now, because that would be the Super Bowl, and they'd still be at SoFi. So,
Hmm.
I think it's one of those things where it was obviously annoying and unfortunate and bizarre, but he's still one of the best kickers in all of football.
Hmm. Yeah, so let's go ahead and go into some Rams news. Not much besides the fact that we're going to a championship game. Apparently, they are still, it's day to day on Ernest Jones. I think they're leaning towards him coming back. Rap sounds like he will come back. Whitworth sounds like he will come back. I expect to see Ernest Jones. Jake, what's really big about Ernest Jones coming back and getting Rap back? Do you think that will boost our defense going into the 49ers game?
Yeah, well, I think Rap is good because he can be kind of your pseudo linebacker. They like using him, playing him close to the box and everything. Ernest Jones is good because you look at the athleticism, that tackling ability. This is somebody that has the athleticism and the sideline to sideline ability where he can jump a route. So you could with Jimmy G, and we saw this against the Packers. Man, he threw a bunch of interceptable passes. If he does that again in way better climate, those corners, those linebackers, those safeties, they're going to be able to jump those routes. It's going to be brutal, honestly, if he throws some of the passes he got away with in Lambeau. But yeah, no, I think Ernest Jones and Taylor Rapp. Obviously, anytime you get some of those guys back, it's a good thing. The Rams do a lot of the rotating and everything, so I don't expect Taylor Rapp to have to jump right back into his role. They can kind of ease him back into it. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if I would touch it because the way playoff Scotty is playing and Burgess and even Weddle, I'm not exactly too worried about Taylor Rapp. I don't know how much he's adding right now, just because the way everything's going on. So they'll probably have him operate closer to the line of scrimmage and be that guy that can tackle in space, but I don't know if they're going to put him out there in coverage or anything like that. That might be a problem. And then Ernest Jones, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Ernest Jones, you want to think long term with him. He's a 3rd round pick. That's not a guy I'm trying to rush back if he's not fully healthy. And so I think they should be somewhat cautious with him. I thought, Troy Reader and Traven Howard did an outstanding job in his absence. So it's one of those things where if you're in the grind and you have this momentum and this flow, it's almost better to not screw around with it. But I think they'll ease those guys back into it, and if they win this Sunday, then they'll be able to come back full strength and ready to go, and probably start with a whole game plan planned around those guys for the Super Bowl. So that
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
do we think that Troy Reader will be the signal caller again?
I would
um
assume so.
Yeah, I mean, he's done such a great job.
Hmm.
He really does not get enough credit. And since he's been demoted and became the starter again from the injury, I just really think he's taken his play to another level, and no one will admit it, but I mean, he helped blow that game up in Arizona. I mean, he had a huge run blitz where he didn't give up even though he got chipped immediately. He fought through the chip, forced the play on Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray tossed it up there like it was nothing and got picked off by David Long and absolutely broke the game open. But, he's played very well down the stretch, and that's all you can ask for out of a linebacker who's really just been Johnny on the spot since they got him as a UDFA out of Delaware.
Yeah, it'll be interesting whether like going into next year they go with Howard or Reader to kind of match up with Jones, because I just knew when we drafted Jones, I was so excited. I was yelling at my TV because I had watched him for 3 to 4 years. And when you watch that type of talent, you just know he's going to be next level in the NFL. And hopefully, if he's healthy, he gets some good playing time. And if he's not, he can rest up. We get the W, and he can make his first appearance in the Super Bowl in his rookie year. And I think that would be a great story for him and a great thing for the team. So, guys, this is our favorite part of the pod. Let's kind of jump into our preview against the 49ers, a very, very familiar foe. This is the 3rd time we play them after our loss in overtime in week 18. A very, very heartbreaking loss there. That is the only loss of the year the Rams have had when they have uh, won the coin toss against the 49ers in the first matchup, and then they lost in the second matchup, and history is what it was. What are you guys looking for as your keys to victory, Jake? What is the biggest thing to get that long sought W after 6 losses in a row?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you want to be able to establish the run early on. If you can establish the run, that's one area you can go to. If they try to sell out to stop the run, then just do exactly what you did the last game. There's no reason the Rams can't throw on this 49ers defense. The Tampa Bay defense had just as many big names as the Niners do. I know the Niners are playing well, but they're coming off a hellacious battle in the frozen tundra at Lambeau Field, and a 13-10 game, which really came down to some special teams play. Down the stretch, it just really feel like the Rams are coming out of a game where you're used to playing that style of football come playoff time. Normally, a West Coast team being able to be that physical on the road, in Green Bay, Wisconsin, when it's obviously it turns into heavy snow. That's just not really normal. But they didn't leave that unpunished. I mean, we saw what Debo was. I mean, he was hopping off the field on one foot, and then you have Trent Williams come out with an injury. So those guys will all play, I would expect. I don't expect any of them to miss the game. But they're not guaranteed to be 100%. So, you want to be able to see, attack that defense, be able to run the football. You have 3 different running backs, and they can do 3 different things, and they have a great variety of skill set. So you got to take advantage of that. And then on top of that, you got to take advantage of the play action. They've just been such a great play action team down the stretch. And, I think with Cooper Kupp, you can have a team want to bracket him, open up opportunities early on for OBJ, Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, and then wait. And if they do continue to bracket Kupp, then just keep throwing to those guys. If they don't want to bracket Kupp after that, then now Kupp is probably going to be open. And, even in bracket coverage, he's still somewhat open. So, this is somebody that has really turned into, the best receiver in the league. And the best receivers in the league step up in these moments. We had Calvin Johnson go over 200 yards in the first round of the playoffs. He wasn't in many playoff games. So I wouldn't put it past Stafford to really lean heavily on Kupp. And I wouldn't put it past, Kupp to end up having a huge game in this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely keeping that the clean pocket for Stafford, keeping that offensive line, keeping those defenders off of him to give him time to go through all his reads, to find that best player to get him to. They did a really good job against the Bucks, and so I'm really looking forward to them to step up again against this 49ers defense. Obviously, limiting the turnovers. I think we've seen it in the last 3 games, even in the 49er games. If we just limit those turnovers, this game would be completely different. One is, okay, but more than one, you're really starting to, lose your chances of becoming successful. So yeah, that's what I would say. I would say clean pocket for Stafford, limit those turnovers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, the biggest thing is forcing Jimmy G to throw. If you're in a situation where, like Jake said, we're running the ball, pushing it down the field, ramming it down their throat, and you're making Jimmy G have to play from behind, especially how he played last week, it shouldn't be too hard to start forcing unforced errors from Jimmy G. It's just making sure we get a lead, we not just keep it, but don't make mistakes, and that's where we kind of fell apart in the third quarter of our last match. Was we started making mistakes, we got 3 and outs. When if we just stayed on the field and ran it enough, and you start draining the clock, and Jimmy G has to look at that clock and realize he has to start throwing 20-yard bombs, you can only throw the Kittle so many times. You can only throw and do weird things with Samuel so many times before you get picked off because your wobbly pass doesn't go far enough. We saw it a lot with Jared Goff, and Jimmy G is in the same vein. So that's where I think we can definitely take advantage of the 49ers and hopefully get a very, very good win and move on to Super Bowl. So, Jake, I know this is probably your favorite, but go ahead and give us your score prediction.
Yeah, so I've been kind of going back and forth in my head, but I'm going to go with 27-17. I think it kind of, embodies what I believe this game will be. The Rams control it all the way through. I think the Rams will have, probably a moment where, they have their back against the wall. I think, the Niners will probably be knocking on the door. They do respond. We know that. It's hard to keep them down, but I think at the end of the day, I think the Rams will counteract that and they'll respond and they'll be able to keep Jimmy G in check. And, keep in mind, you can't just run the ball the whole time when you're down the whole game. So I do think the Rams are going to just kind of flip the whole, their gameplay. They're gonna completely flip their game plan on its head, and I think it's going to cost them a Super Bowl run. I think the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl, and um, I'm pretty confident in it, man. I really think they're the better team. They really have everything going for them. I think the Niners, the run has been really impressive, but I just think when it comes down to is this, when you're Jimmy Garoppolo and you're going up against a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, who leads the league since he joined it in 2009 in fourth quarter comebacks. I don't know. You're beating them 3 times seems a little ridiculous. Again, Niners, they could absolutely do it. They're a good, really, really good team, and they have a really good future, but this just feels right. This just feels like this is the eraser. All that pain that Rams fans went through and all that pain that the Rams in general went through. I think it comes to it goes away. This has always really, for me, felt like this was McVay's year. He's already been in the Super Bowl, but I feel like, and while I do believe they were the better team than the Patriots, I think it was a bad game. I think this time they are the better team, and I think that they are not ahead of schedule because, look over with the Bengals, they're ahead of schedule. It felt like the Rams were a little bit ahead of schedule the first year when they went to the wild card game and hosted that, but I feel way better about them this year than I have before. Just feel like this team the whole year, and then just seeing Cam Akers work his tail off to get back here and healthy. Eric Weddle signing on, Odell signing on, trading for Von Miller, getting Matthew Stafford in January. I mean, it just, to me, it all seems like it's coming together. And I could be absolutely wrong. We could all be wrong, but it's really hard to pick against a team like the Rams that are coming off 2 massive wins against the Cardinals in a blowout, and Tampa, which could have honestly been a massive blowout, even bigger blowout than the Cardinals.
Yeah, you said, 20, you said 27-17. That's what I was thinking as well, but I'm not going to take yours. But I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to go 24-17. I think it's going to be a close game again. You know, I think this is the team. This is the team that we wanted. This is, the quote unquote. I hate the term all in, but the Rams. This team just feels different. It feels like, bringing in OBJ and OBJ just adapting to this team, and you know coming from these players that come up as, quote unquote toxic, and then coming to this environment and then thriving and like having fun, watching this team have fun on the field, and off the field. It's just that chemistry I don't see a lot in other teams. And so yeah, I think it's going to be a win. I thought the last game should have been a win, and it really probably should have. But yeah, I'm going to go 24-17.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will go 35-13. I just think the Rams are gonna. It feels different than the other two games. At least when I'm like watching the pressers, I'm seeing how the team's talking. Um, the San Francisco players, for some reason, have gone so disrespectful to this team, and it's that blind arrogance that I feel like can catch you off guard, and all it takes is the Rams not to let off the foot off the gas in the second half. And I just feel like they don't let off the gas. They don't make the same mistake. The Bucks game will linger in their head and be like, we shouldn't have made those mistakes. We shouldn't have had those fumbles. And I think they execute. I think McVay has the game plan of the ages. He's just going to not want to lose another game to his best friend. So, because we all know when they talk it like every week, we know Shanahan is just talking crap. It's like your best friend when you're playing Madden and they just always beat you. He's just constantly talking crap to you, and it kind of gets in your head. And like, but there's eventually that one time where you get it together, you ignore all the previous history, and you just play a great game. And they get kind of hit in the face and don't expect and never recover. And I feel like this will be the game they don't recover. And none of that other history will matter, and we'll win the actual one that's important.
No, I agree with you. I mean, maybe the the blowout is not something that I necessarily will predict here, probably for the sake of jinxing, but um but no, I think it just feels different. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times. The Rams did that against Seattle back in the day, but it is really hard. And I think when you look at the Niners, this is not your stereotypical NFC championship type of team. This is a team that got really hot. They're your, 8 or 9 seed in the NCAA tournament that's playing in the Final Four right now. I mean,
And it
you're
seems like
not.
they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, and that I think that works well, and it absolutely could lead to a win. But you couple that with the arrogance that they have, and obviously guys like Tebow Samuel are already talking. But and I get that's part of the rivalry, but at some point or another, I do think the Rams losing that game helped them more than anyone wants to admit, because here's the thing. The Bucs had never won 5 straight the entire season, but they were going to have to win 5 straight in order to beat the Rams, and they couldn't do it. The Rams had a 5 or 6 game winning streak, whatever, and down the stretch, they lose the last game of the year to the Niners. They were already in the playoffs. So the idea that the Niners wanted it more may sound tacky and cliche, but it was true. The Niners literally needed to win that game to make the playoffs. The Rams didn't really care about their seeding. They were just, they were in the playoffs already. So then you fast forward and you look and you're like, well, if the Rams win that game against the 49ers and how important that game was and how big that game was, who's to say they wouldn't have gotten, a huge letdown against Arizona, or whoever they played. Because here's the thing, and they probably play the Saints. So who's to say with the Saints defense, the Rams get all high and mighty and think that they're on top of the world after beating the Niners for the first time, in 6 tries. They win that game, the Niners are out, and then they lose to the Saints. I just think getting that last loss out of the way is definitely not a bad thing. And we saw it against Arizona, the way they were able to just rally and just at no point give Arizona any sort of room to breathe. And really, they went into another team's house, the defending Super Bowl champions, and did it to them. They just had some freak incidents where you're talking 4 fumbles. One was a bad snap. One was, a Cooper Kupp who is super reliable and never fumbles. And you had another who fumbled twice. Who, I mean, come on, like he was at the goal line and he fumbled by hitting his head on, like his helmet hit the ground. I mean, it's stuff like that. It took all of that and they still won. They're playoff conditioned. They're ready to be in any moment, and I feel like they can rise to that occasion, and that's why I have them winning.
Yeah, not to mention, I think it also helped with the play calling and the decision making from McVay at the end of the Buccaneers game. Like if we had won, let's say we win the coin toss and we win the 49ers game in overtime, I think there's a good chance that McVay probably takes the Bucks game in overtime. Because like that's what he did with the 49ers game. He was like, okay, I'll just take my chance because he had some time to make a few plays, call a few passing downs, and you could tell at the end of this Bucks game, McVay was like, I am not doing that again. And same thing with Stafford and the entire offense. They were like, we are not going through an overtime loss. And they willed themselves to go down that field and get that field goal. And credit to McVay for being gutsy and learning from his mistake in Week 18. And we'll see how we play in the championship. And hey, Zach, I hope we have another podcast after the week after. Got to keep on doing those podcasts if we keep on winning.
For sure, for sure. I want to keep this dialogue going more and more. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. You can always send us questions and feedback to feedback@eastcoastrams.com or hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Zach Mayer. Ashton's at RamsFanAshton1. And a big shout out to our special guest, Jake Ellenbogen. You can follow him at JK Bogan on Twitter. Jake, you want to tell him anything else? Any other promotions?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me again. Really do appreciate you guys reaching out, and I'll always make time. If I can. I mean, obviously this week has just been so busy, but for anybody that's listening out there, I do have a YouTube channel, as mentioned before. Pretty much have a live stream almost every day. We're going to be having all sorts of content. The Downtown Rams podcast is also on that channel. You can check out our podcast, the one I do with Alexis Kraft, on all platforms. And we're going to be having all sorts of guests. We already have them lined up, for the draft. I mean, we're going to have a lot of draft prospects on, back to doing our thing, and we're going daily. We're going to become a daily podcast as well. That will start after the Super Bowl. So really excited about that. But again, can't thank you guys enough for having me. Really do appreciate it. And, I'm welcome to come on anytime, man.
All right. Well, that sounds great. And yeah, everyone, we're looking forward to another winning game on Sunday, and we'll catch you guys hopefully next week. Let's get it done.